Don't get nasty, John. KFUG Community Radio, 12:28 the time. Paul Kurtz with you, Community Service, the show, and we have, this is a do-over. This is, we've got John Pritchett, candidate for District 1 County Supervisor, Del Norte County, coming in now. Now, John was in a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, I screwed up the recording. So I wanted to have him back on so that we could just kind of go through the interview again. Do you remember what we spoke about?
We talked a lot about the Bee Gees.
Yeah, that's right, we did.
Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees, yes. Also joined live in the studio with us today is Jessica Sainart from the Wild Rivers Outpost to help
Hello again.
ask the hard-hitting questions.
Well, it's great to have her with us. She does a great job.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
And she is desperately missed at her previous employment.
Really?
Well, at least by me.
Thank you for that.
So how's the campaign going?
It's going great. I'm getting lots of positive feedback, hearing a lot of good things, knocking on doors, picking up endorsements. Got the Operating Engineers Union has those hardworking folks have joined my cause. Like me, they believe that we can't wait 19 more years to get last chance grade bypass completed. We got to do better than that. We have to get it done before we all have flying cars.
Yeah.
And make it easier then. And then
At that point it's going to be irrelevant. But I don't want to be on last chance grade when it goes. Yeah. I don't want either of you, your families. I don't want my grandson, who's now 9 months old, to be on that when it goes. Wow. And we've already lost people from Del Norte County in the past. I don't want to see it happen again. And it's going to require keeping the pressure on our elected leaders in Washington, D.C., Congressman Huffman, and in Sacramento with Mike McGuire and with Jim Wood, Dr. Wood. And I can work with these people. Mm-hmm. I'm on a first-name basis with them. And that doesn't mean that they get a free pass. That means that I'll be making the phone call saying, where are we?
Yeah.
Why isn't this moving forward faster? What can we do to help put the pressure on? It means galvanizing the community to keep the pressure on, so that every time they come to Del Norte County, the first thing they hear is, where do we stand on last chance grade? 2039 is way too far down the line.
Mm-hmm. And we just spoke with Lori Cowan, actually, about a lot of the conversation was about last chance grade and the sort of consensus that seems to have been. Everybody seems in the county to be on the same page now. And working with the working groups and working with Huffman and Woods and McGuire and going to all the meetings and walking the alternate routes, and the funding is there now. It seems like the next big issue to press for is, okay, let's constrict that timeline and make it happen before 2039.
And Congressman Huffman has done a brilliant job of bringing in the diverse group of stakeholders from the city and the county, the usual suspects, but also the tribes, also the environmental groups, right? Having them all be part of it. There's about 25 different studies that have to be done. And Congressman Huffman is pushing that A, B, C, and D get done now, rather than A is done. Now we go to B.
Right.
Getting those done in groups.
In a parallel sort of course.
Correct.
Too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you think you can bring to that conversation that hasn't been brought before?
Well, one of the big things is District 1 has lost its voice over the last 8 years. Unfortunately, the incumbent has burned bridges. I believe in building bridges, not burning them. And we have to repair our relationship, not only with our elected leaders, but also with those folks in state agencies, the unelected folks who carry a lot of power.
Yep.
District 1, when the District 1 supervisor calls, we don't always get the answer. And I work well with people, regardless of political party. And that's something I'm very proud of, is the diverse group of folks supporting me, both from the Republican side and the Democratic side. They see something in me that they believe will help build our community.
Now, you might have answered this question before. You talked about giving a spiel. And so I guess I'm going to kind of ask you to give a spiel. But, what prompted you to throw your hat in the race?
I was raised in large part by my grandparents. Especially my grandfather was the biggest influence on my life. And he always taught me, you have to give back. You have to give back to your faith. You have to give back to your family. You have to give back to your friends. And you have to give back to your community. I moved here almost 29 years ago, and Delaware County has been very, very good to me. And I've tried to give back as I can. I've been on the County Planning Commission. I've been on the County Fish and Game Advisory Commission. Currently on the the Delnort Fair Board. And in fact, I was recently selected as the president after just 1 year on the board.
Which board? Which fair
The
board?
Fair Board, the Delnort County Fair Board.
Okay, so not the special district board.
No, the 41st District Agricultural Association. I know it gets confusing.
Sure.
But I've also been on the Senior Center Board, the Chamber of Commerce, that type of thing. And it's the next logical step. One thing I really want to do is bring civility back to the board meetings. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can be passionate without being poisonous. And that's been lost. And I want to build that back up so that reasonable people can actually debate issues without the animosity and the, I don't want to say name calling, but the lack of progress to actually solve the issues that impact Delaware County.
Do you see, and Roger was big on making big grand statements in the chamber, about SB 54, about things like this, things that really are larger issues, not Delnort specific. What are your thoughts about that? Is that the place to do that? Is a supervisor the person to do that?
My thought is always reverts back to what does that have to do with getting the potholes fixed?
Right.
I'm not going to be listening to Rachel Maddow or to Sean Hannity to tell me what we should do in Delnort County in District 1. I want to listen to District 1 residents. Now, certain issues that do impact our community, there may be places for where a supervisor can use that podium as a pulpit, but it should always come back to how does it impact the folks in my district? How does it impact the folks in Delnort County? And am I grandstanding on their benefit or for mine? And I want to make sure that it's always going to be for the benefit of our community.
You mentioned earlier
it was
District
obviously
1,
very
I'm sorry.
memorable.
Yes, it was. No, you mentioned earlier District 1 not having a voice. I think you were referring to District 1 not having a voice at the at a state level, at the conversation around last chance grade, those kinds of issues. Just from the short time you've been campaigning and talking to people, your potential constituents, what have you learned about them? And what do you think you'll be able to do for them?
What I'm hearing more and more when I go knocking on doors and I'm visiting people is, they're tired of the board not working together. They understand there's going to be disagreements, but there should not be animosity. That is right there with addressing the homeless issue and homeless/property crimes, and those have been linked together. Fair or unfair, I can't judge it, but it is a fact. They are linked together. And regarding the homeless, we do have to give law enforcement better tools to impact that problem with the property crime crisis we're facing in our community. I'm hearing over and over again about homeless people squatting into empty buildings. That has to be addressed on two levels. First off, from a criminal side of it, but also we have to find some place for these folks to go so they're not having to break the law. Regarding the law enforcement, we have to do a better job of being neighbors. We can't ask law enforcement to do everything. We can't afford to put a cop in every street corner. What we can do is keep an eye out. That person doesn't belong at that house, my neighbor's house. I'm calling my neighbor right now. Wait, phone's ringing. Yeah, there's somebody in my backyard. Okay, please call 911 while I go and chase them away. We just need to be better neighbors. That's going to solve a lot of it. One thing I do want to say is that being homeless doesn't make you a criminal. We have 150 students, according to the school district, and this is K through 12, not college students, K through 12, that are classified as homeless.
Yes, we do. And the
Now,
district employees think it may be more than that.
Probably is.
Yeah.
I mean, these are kids that are living in cars with their parents or living on their own, or they're sofa surfing. We can do better than that in Del Norte County. The woman and their family escaping an abusive relationship and living at Harrington House. They're not criminals, and they're certainly not human refuse, as somebody once referred to them, rather disappointingly, I might say. The veteran who, for whatever reason, is having trouble fitting back in society. We need to do a much better job of letting them know and helping them get to the services that are available in our community through the Veteran Service Office, funded by the county, in part by the county, located at the Veteran Service Hall on
Beach Street.
Thank you. Across catty corner from the Flynn Center.
Right.
There's things we can do. Senator McGuire has been working on bringing in about $1 million into our community so that we can address this issue with a shelter. And one thing about, you talked about losing our voice. The incumbent in District 1 had an idea about using some surplus county property to create, and it was immediately dismissed.
Surplus-
Right, but it was a good idea.
Surplus county property to create what?
the zone, the interacting with the homeless people.
Yeah, a
right?
place for homeless where
Sure.
there are certain, maybe a shower, the mobile shower facility.
This is Jerry Johnson's idea that he's been trying. Is that Jerry Johnson from the VFW?
Yeah,
This is an idea.
yeah.
That it's what does he call it? A staging area,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
And it's an idea that certainly deserves to be looked at and examined, kicked around, and see, hey, can we make this work? If how much is it going to cost us? Is it going to pay off for us? And that didn't go anywhere because we're at a situation where the bridge had been burned, and so we got to repair that bridge in District 1 so that we can look at all possible solutions. John Kennedy said it best. He said, let's not look for the Democratic answer or the Republican answer. Let's look for the right answer.
And it's interesting, too, in Del Norte County, we actually have an opportunity to approach problems from that stance, too, because we are not a clearly red or blue kind of county. You said yourself, you campaign to Republicans, you campaign to non-aligned folks and to Democrats, and they're all your constituents, and so you sort of tailor your message to kind of be ecumenical that way. So it seems like we can afford to come in to problems from a nonpartisan sort of standpoint.
We have to look at every possible solution, and a lot of times we can marriage solutions together so that that's the best of both worlds. We have to move on from partisan politics because it's not getting us anywhere. We have to move on from the politics of just because you said it and you have a different letter after your name, I can't support that.
Right.
If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. If it helps Del Norte County, it helps Del Norte County. And we have to get away from our belief that just because you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, I'm never going to agree with you. That's folly.
Well, and speaking of agreeing with somebody who has a different letter than you associate with, I mean, our state representatives and our national representatives are Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and odds are they are going to stay Democratic for the foreseeable future. That's just the makeup of our districts, and. It's no secret. I'm a Democrat. I'm an Eisenhower Democrat. For you kids that don't remember who Eisenhower was.
I remember who Eisenhower was. I don't know what that means, but that's
Well, he wasn't a
okay.
Democrat, which is interesting.
Eisenhower was the man who said the middle of the road is the only usable surface. You get too far left, too far right, and you're in the gutter.
Right on.
And I always thought that was a great statement. The fact that they're a Democrat, or if it turns out to be a Republican, I'm going to work with them. And I'm going to keep the same pressure on them to get solutions for Del Norte County, regardless of their political party. And it does help, I believe, a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, that I am of the same party. They might pay a little bit more attention to me, but it's a nonpartisan office, and I'm not going to care if you are a Republican or a Democrat. If you come to me with a problem, I'm going to try to solve it.
Now, you'd said before, when we were talking about sort of the grandstanding, the things that have happened in the chamber at the Flynn Center. and how that doesn't address things like fixing the potholes. So what sort of practical improvements are part of your vision for Del Norte County then? Things like pothole question. Because really, seriously, that is honestly
Sure.
not to be where the rubber meets the road, but that's where most of us interact
Well,
with government.
we've talked
Yeah.
about improving the civility, the tenor of our meetings. We've talked about last chance grade. We have to improve our economic foundation in our community. We need a fully funded Chamber of Commerce that's out there knocking on doors outside of Del Norte County saying we are open for business for clean industries, not just companies that's going to come in like a box store and put together some minimum wage jobs. No, industry that's going to pay a living wage for our community. There's small businesses right now that are doing that. Out in Smith River, there's the company that makes the precision parts. They've figured it out. If that means we need to offer them some incentives, some sort of small tax breaks over a reasonable period of time that pay off for us in terms of a higher tax foundation so we don't pay a higher tax rate, we need to do that. We need to take a long, hard look on how we can make that work. The other thing I'd love to see us do is expand our recreation department. Right now, our recreation department does an amazing job with 2 full-time people.
Wow.
Wow.
Casey and Justin are remarkable, but they're just 2 people. I want to see expansion of children's programs there because busy kids don't get in trouble. But I also have this vision for adults, and that is during the summer, spring, fall, every weekend, there is something going on. It could be an adult tournament, maybe an adult softball tournament, a children's soccer tournament, horseshoes, hand grenades, anything. But we have some sort of event here.
Grenades.
That'll be
have-
fun.
It's a new sport. You're going to love it.
Nice.
But we create this event, especially in the summer, and then we get the word over in Medford, Ashland, Grants Pass,
Yeah.
Reading, Sacramento.
Come spend the weekend here. Bring your team.
Bring
It's-
your
it's
team.
cool.
Bring your
It's-
sweatshirt. You're not going to breathe. It's 115 degrees in Sacramento. It is 65 in Crescent City.
Yeah.
And hey, when they get there, okay, dad's out playing softball, mom's out playing softball. We give them our sponsorship flyers saying, hey, if you're looking for something to do, the Lighthouse is open from this time to this time. One of our sponsors might be Trees of Mystery or Ocean World. They're open at this time. Go by and see them. Kid Town is located at this location right here. If you're looking for a place to eat, here's our sponsors. Come take advantage of that. So while you're here, while you're enjoying some clean air and some clean water and some cool weather, spend a little money while you're here.
So you're envisioning the rec department having a role in sort of creating these weekend, almost like mini regional attractions, like sea cruise, like the basketball tournaments that come to town every year.
And
that
they
sort of-
already do some of that. I'd like to see it expanded.
Yeah, wow. I love that idea too.
Are there other county programs that you think should be expanded or improved upon?
Oh, absolutely. Mental health is a real challenge in our community because we have no mental health facility. We spend an extraordinary amount of money taking mental health patients in crisis and transporting them to, we can't transport them to Eureka, to the facility called Semper Virens. They only take Humboldt County.
Right. I think Yuba City is where they go.
They go to Yuba City.
Wow.
They go to Reading. They go to Red Bluff. They go to Santa Rosa. They go to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
We're spending a ton of money. I couldn't give you an exact dollar, but it's in 6 digits. Just transporting patients. They're not getting help. They're just being transported to the help. I want to see, well, let me back up. Mental health department, Heather Snow at Health and Human Services in the hospital have taken a long, hard look to see if they can make the numbers work so we could have a crisis intervention center here. Hasn't worked. I want them to keep going, and I want the county to be a facilitator to do that. Let's keep looking. Let's get the healthcare district involved as well. See if they can bring some dollars to the problem. I know the healthcare district and the hospital.
They've tried that.
Yeah, they've collided heads a few times. Doesn't matter. We have to keep working on it and keep working on it and keep looking for solutions. And maybe this idea didn't work. Okay, we're going to try this idea. That didn't work. Oh, wait. This idea might work. Let's explore it. Let's go forward with it. We can't just give up. And it's gonna be a huge benefit for the patient themselves, but also for the community in terms of just savings.
Speaking of the hospital, where do you stand on? There's Dr. Wood's bill about community benefits. Do you feel like the hospital is trying to make up for, previous decisions that the community didn't fully support, may have been more in the best interest of Sutter Health than Crescent City and Del Norte County?
You're talking about critical access.
Yes, I am.
That was probably the worst rollout ever seen, not only in Del Norte County, but probably Western America.
Right.
And the hospital, that's been 10 years ago.
Right.
And as it turned out that the Affordable Care Act made that fairly irrelevant. It could come back under the right circumstances, I suppose. The hospital has made, I don't want to say promises, but they've made some assurances that if everything stays forward, they will not be looking to do that again. But they don't want to take a possible arrow in their quiver off the table, to badly mix a metaphor.
Yeah, but they're also they're kind of having their feet held to the fire now too.
They are, and I like the fact that the healthcare district, and please remember, some people don't realize that the healthcare district and the hospital board are two very different,
Absolutely.
separate entities. I like the fact that the healthcare district is serving now as a watchdog for the on the hospital. I do not like where they are an attack dog, where they see anything that seems wrong and it's instantly an attack. I'm very glad to see that in the ER, in the emergency room, they now have a doctors group there that is in network.
Yep.
That saves Del Norte County residents a boatload of money.
Yeah.
And that, we, like every other business, and yes, Sutter Coast is a business. It's a not-for-profit, but it is a business. They have to be held accountable by the consumer. And in this case, Sutter is part of a broken system. They're working in a system that does not work, where the whole system is broke with Medi-Cal. The Medi-Cal situation in our community and statewide forces folks to use the ER as their primary care physician. That's the most expensive kind of medicine possible.
And it's expensive for the hospital and for the county too, probably.
Right. And it's a system-wide situation that has to be addressed, not only locally by keeping the pressure on not only Sutter Coast, but the other providers as well.
Sure.
It's all marketplace driven, but also by keeping the pressure on our other elected leaders and the Board of Supervisors to keep things moving forward, to look for solutions, to make groups work together for a common goal.
You're tuned to KFUG Community Radio, 9 minutes away from the 1 o'clock hour. Paul Kritz with you and Community Service the Show. We're joined live in the studio by John Pritchett, running for Board of Supervisors, Del Norte County District 1. Also joining us live is Jessica Sanar, Crescent City Bureau Chief for the Wild Rivers Outpost. I love that. So in the previous interview that we did that no one will ever hear again, we talked about you've talked about industry specifically, wanting to build sustainable industry in Del Norte County to sort of achieve a sunnier economic scene. What role does tourism play in that?
A big one. But we need to be more than just come look at our big trees. We have a lot to offer. We have one of the most spectacular lighthouses and accessible lighthouses on the West Coast. And I don't think we do a great job marketing that. we could do a much better job of doing that. You heard my ideas on bringing in sports tourism.
Right.
One thing that's going on right now is a huge boom nationwide in mountain biking. And we're seeing efforts being made to bring trails in to Del Norte County to build trails. Joe Gillespie is leading that fight. And
He's a trailblazer. Yes, he is.
literally.
But
Thank you.
That's the type of thing. And one thing that's being looked at right now, Congressman Huffman has a wilderness bill that I'm taking a long, hard look at. But part of that is for the expansion of trails, maybe not in the wilderness area per se, but in Del Norte County and in Humboldt County as well. And we need to, anything we can do that allows people to enjoy our natural beauty should be encouraged, as long as we don't degrade those things we care about the most: clean air, clean water.
to kind of piggyback off of Paul's question, but not talking about tourism, what role do you think that cannabis would play in an economic driver for Del Norte?
Not a huge one.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because it's a commodity just like anything else, cotton. And in talking to those folks who are involved in the legal cannabis industry, they're running into the same problems that anybody else, any other product has. You go across the border and it's much, much cheaper to buy. And as they say, you know, they can sell for retail, they can sell for wholesale what we sell for retail. And
I don't think it works out that way.
That's what I've been told.
I'm just assuming that you don't buy pot a lot.
And
I'll be honest.
You do, Paul.
I have a little more of an economic snapshot in my head about that.
The one big thing I do want to push when we're talking about cannabis, and that is illegal grows.
Right.
That not only puts improper pressure on those folks doing it legally, but the environmental damage from illegal grows is massive. And I don't know if we've seen a lot of it in Del Norte County, but in Humboldt County, it has been a disaster because with stream diverting of streams and the massive use of fertilizer, herbicide, insecticide, getting into the groundwater stream, getting in the regular water stream. It has been a environmental and also a disaster for those folks who are living downstream. And that has to be a focus.
And even as this whole industry sort of transitions from illegal to legal status, the things that have happened in Humboldt, I mean, people have been killed. It's been a nightmare scene down there as far as cannabis goes. And I was talking with Lori earlier about this. We were talking with Lori about the way that Del Norte sort of appeared to drag its feet into legal cannabis. Kind of seems to have worked out okay because we've kind of kept the lid on things here and nothing's gotten out of hand. We have a couple of retailers, or one retailer that I know of, and then we've sort of controlled that. It hasn't just blown up in our faces. And so I don't know, that sort of slow motion move and coming into the ordinancing and making sure that everybody that working with the working group, you know, to fashion the ordinances, all of that. I don't know. I guess now at the time I was going, for crying out loud, come on, this is just like conservative, like foot dragging. No, it kind of seemed to be a wise thing to do.
Amazing how those things kind of work out.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, they're still doing adjustments. One of the things that was created in the ordinances that no cannabis facility could be more than or closer than 1,000 feet.
I think it was 1,000 feet
Between
initially.
each other and from a school.
And from a school.
Yeah.
So then the question is, well, what is a school?
Right.
Juvenile hall
Right.
is the Seventh-day Adventist location. Is that a school? You know, depends on what your definition of a school is. And so there's still things that have to be worked out, and the board currently is trying to make things work that is fair and equitable. But it's a process. And to try to answer your question, you know, I don't see it being some sort of major economic driver in our community. It's part of the whole picture.
Sure.
But it's not going to make Del Norte County rich.
Sure. Have you in in your outreach as a candidate for supervisor, or even just as a Del Norter, I mean, what kind of outreach have you done with the tribes?
Not much.
Okay.
Other than I believe that the tribes have been a great economic engine in our community. Not everything has worked out as well as they've hoped, but that's like any enterprise. You're going to have successes. You're going to have some failures.
Sure.
Smith River has done a tremendous job up there with housing, with health care, and Elk Valley with their efforts for economic diversity. Should be awarded. They need to be full partners, and we've done that with the Border Coast Airport.
That's right.
They've joined in and become full partners.
And there's some infrastructure things too that like Elk Valley has joined in with as far as getting grant funding and stuff to address.
My campaign theme is "Together We're Better," and that's a perfect example of that, where the tribes and the city and the county have worked together to make things better for our community. And I'm good friends with Dale Miller at Elk Valley and with Kara Miller with Smith River, and they have to be partners.
I think it's a beautiful thing that actually nowadays you can't talk about really getting much done in Del Norte County without involving the tribes.
Well, they're an economic power,
Yeah.
and if we don't embrace that, we're hurting not only ourselves but we're also hurting them, and there's no reason for it.
Well, and tribal members are your constituents too.
It doesn't matter if they are tribal, if they are white, if they are African American, or if they're Norwegian. I don't care. District 1, we're a big melting pot. I'll tell you a quick story. I came home one day, and this is when we had all the kids at home, and my son Brandon my stepson is of Asian descent. And he's sitting there on a sofa. He's playing a video game with his friends, and right next to him, and just cheek to cheek, is his friend Jalen, African American. Next to him is his friend James, Native American. Next to him is Travis, whitest kid you ever saw in your life. And they look at me, and I look at them, and said, "No Hispanics, you bunch of racists." Yeah, and that's a good thing, that the next generation has rejected those stereotypes, and they can joke about their ancestry, and our generation is still uncomfortable with that, except in certain situations.
Right.
But where they can, as friends, tease each other about it, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing.
I just want to alert everyone, 1 o'clock straight up, you're tuned to KFUG LP Crescent City, 101.1 FM online, kfugradio.org. Joined live in the studio, Jessica Sanar from the Wild Rivers Outpost. We're talking with John Pritchett, candidate for Del Norte County Board of Supervisors, District 1. I have no idea how long you're willing to sit here with us, so give us the high sign when you're ready to be done.
Let's keep going.
All right.
So I have a question about the sister community relationship between Crescent City, Del Norte County, and Rikuzen Takata, Japan. What are your thoughts on that that whole relationship? Do you think that is a benefit to the community? And
Absolutely.
If so, why?
Absolutely, it's a benefit to the community. Both sides have learned from the others. I think the whole story about the boat is so wonderful, so heartwarming, and I am so excited over the fact that NBC is going to be making such a big deal about it during the Summer Olympics and in Tokyo this year. And one thing I'm very happy to see is our community, our county, our city, and the county government planning for how do we take advantage of this. We're going to have publicity that we could never ever buy.
Millions of people.
Yes, millions to purchase that type of publicity would be in the millions and millions of dollars, and we're going to get it free because some kids did the right thing and some parents helped them out, and that has turned into, first off, we've learned more about emergency preparedness. We saw the devastation that the Japanese city, and I that's one of the first things I need to do is learn how to pronounce that.
It takes a good day.
You've heard of Hakuna Matata from The Lion King?
Oh,
Yes.
very good.
Rakuzen Takata.
From the Lion King.
Right. That's. I credit Tony Reed,
Did he
former
come up with
triplicate
that?
reporter,
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
But anyway, back to we're now seeing some not only cultural exchanges but also some commercial exchanges, and the more we reach out, the more they're going to accept, the more we can take back, and that exchange is just going to grow and grow and grow. But the most important thing is that we are building to take advantage of this free publicity that's going to come in when the Olympics are held. We're beefing up our internet infrastructure so we can handle all these hits we're going to take from around the world. It's an exciting time,
Yeah.
and it's amazing how this little act of kindness. Oh, we found a boat. We found out where it's from. Let's find a way to get it back to them. And it has grown into friendships on a personal and on a city-to-city level.
And even if the only thing to ever come out of this was the publicity from the Olympics, some of the segments that NBC is doing, that justifies it right there. Every cent paid, and all the people who have been critical about, you're spending thousands of dollars to go to Japan, and now we're getting millions of dollars worth of advertising for Delnor County subsequently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
I know. I look at you like, what's your question?
Right. Through this whole process, I don't know how involved you've been with the Sister City kind of evolution, because it started out with the boat, with the sister school relationship, and now has blossomed into an official Sister City relationship. But what did you learn either about Delnor County and Crescent City, or Rakuzen Takata, or both, that you didn't, or Japan, that you didn't know before through this relationship? If anything, I don't know.
I think what was reinforced is the basic goodness of the residents of Delnor County. It's very easy to, we talked about the epidemic of property crime, and it's very easy to, see the quote unquote bad news. And when we have a situation where there's this good news and the whole community rallied, that's important. It's important that we find ways to lift ourselves up and lift others up rather than tear them down. And we saw something similar happen during football season, where this group of kids, about 20 kids on this team, ended up playing for a state championship. The whole community was lifted up by these kids, and we need to find ways to celebrate our successes more and more and more, and not worrying so much about somebody's getting ahead, I must pull them down. And we know who we're talking about. There are those people out there who always, they never have a solution, but boy, they can spot a problem. And it's
they have a very valuable role. I've always believed this, just in discourse in our society in general, but typically they're not involved with fixing the problem that they've identified.
And a lot of times the problems they spot are not nearly as dire as they see it, or it's not as what they see as a problem is actually business.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So I don't know if you have another question loaded.
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to do this. So let's assume, congratulations, you've had a successful campaign, you are elected to the Board of Supervisors, and then all of a sudden the time machine goes zip, and we're 4 years in the future. What will Delnor County look like after 4 years with John Pritchett on the Board of Supervisors?
Well, hopefully we'll be much closer to having a bypass for last chance grade done. As I said before, 19 years is unacceptable. We have to be making some serious progress toward getting pavement on the ground. Hopefully we've brought in some industries into our community that pay a living wage. One of the big issues that is coming on the horizon is the lack of home health care workers in our community. These folks get paid minimum wage for the most part. They go out and work with those folks, mostly seniors, almost all seniors, helping them stay out of the hospital, which saves money for everybody. But for what they get paid, they can get a job at Walmart or McDonald's or wherever and not have to face the emotional pain that they face working with our senior population when these folks move on, or just the struggle of getting somebody to try to stay healthy when all their life they've lived an unhealthy lifestyle. You know, the emotional toil that takes on these people is immense. And in nationwide, we're going to need 3.5 million more home health care providers to keep up with just at the level we're at now. As this baby boomer, we're now hitting geezerhood. We're coming up there.
Okay, geezer.
I can see it. It's not far away from me. We have to find ways to build that so that they can have a wage that keeps them in the industry far longer.
What leads to this insight for you? Have you had an older person, an older relative that's?
Well, one thing is I chatted recently with some folks in that industry, and their story was compelling, and it was something that was not on my radar, but it is now. And we imagine a world where there is no home health care, where senior citizens with marginal health issues don't have anybody coming in to make sure that they have the oxygen they need, that they're eating right, that they're taking their medications, that they're staying clean, they're staying healthy, if nothing else, just having actual human contact at least once in a while. And that scares me. That scares me for not only our community but nationwide, but especially in our community.
Yeah. Because we don't have the infrastructure. I mean, I'm guessing for many of those who rely on home health care workers, that's the difference between remaining in their own home and having to be put into some kind of an institution like a hospital or an assisted living facility or. And
for somebody in need of that,
right,
where with just a little bit of help they can stay at home. That's what they want. They want to be in their own homes. We all do. They do not want to go to
Addie Meadham or
more a convalescent type hospital,
right?
Yeah. And
because I've been in Addie Meadham, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't, but no
more, and it's no reflection on a convalescent hospital.
No, not
they
at
do
all.
Absolutely the best they can, and they face many of the same issues with high turnover because it is such an incredibly difficult job. But the more we can keep people at home, the better it is for the patient, the better it is for the community.
Right. And then you've created a lot of above minimum wage sort of jobs, of healthcare professional jobs.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so before we went on, it is 11 minutes past 1, and I'm just working toward wrapping this up. You were talking about the different your different sort of scripts that you have for whether it's time constraints or if you're talking to a room of Republicans or what. Give us the 30-second, which is longer than 30 seconds, but if you would, the nonpartisan spiel for why someone should vote for John Pritchett.
Well, you've already heard most of it, so here we go. Number one, we have to bring civility back to the Flynn Center, back to the Board of Supervisors. Together, we're better. And my two phrases I've been using over and over again is, and then I forgot them. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Right. We can be passionate without being poisonous. Number two, last chance grade. 2039 is unacceptable to have the bypass done. We're going to lose lives. We're spending $10 to $20 million a year on Band-Aids.
Yeah.
And we all know in our hearts, no matter what Caltrans and the experts say, the right earthquake, the right storm at the right time, and it is going to go. We have to do better than that, and I will keep the pressure on Assemblyman Huffman, Congressman Huffman, Assemblyman Wood, and State Senator Mike McGuire. that this stays a front burner issue. The homelessness issues, it's not an issue, it's multiple issues. We do have to give law enforcement better tools in order to fight the criminal side of that. But just because you're homeless doesn't make you a criminal. 150 students in our community are homeless. They're not criminals. The mother and her children escaping a abusive relationship, they are not criminals. The veteran who cannot assimilate back in society, they are not criminals. Do I have time for a quick story?
Yeah, sure.
I talked to a woman, and as I was knocking door's door, and it was an apartment building, and she had just moved in with her 5-year-old son. And she said, 6 months ago, I was the last person you would ever think would be ever homeless, would be living in her vehicle.
Wow.
She had a job, her husband had a job, they had their son. Life was pretty good. Husband, for whatever reason, got involved with some shady characters, got involved in meth, turned abusive. She had to escape. No money, living in a car with her son, and she's crying, I'm crying, and it really struck me that we have to help those who deserve help. Those folks who, the criminal side of it has to be addressed, but we can't lump everybody together. It's not a homeless issue, it's the homeless issues. Economic development, bringing in clean industry, not just box stores paying minimum wage, but industry that pays a living wage. We have to make that a priority. We have to fully fund the Chamber of Commerce, make them the calling card, and let everybody know that Del Norte County is open for business. We have internet facilities that are outstanding. We do have transportation issues, but they can be overcome. We can do this. And also expansion of the recreation department. Busy kids do not get in trouble, and that is a chance to grow our community economically by inviting other communities to come to Del Norte County and take advantage of what we really do have to offer. Clean air, clean water, temperate temperatures. When it's 115 degrees in Medford and Redding, and you can cut the air with a knife, come over to Del Norte County, bring a sweatshirt, come play softball, come play basketball. We're going to show you a great time, and while you're here, spend some money with our friends.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, of course.
No. Yes,
Fine.
you can. No, go ahead.
Del Norte Unified School District and the contractual conflicts with its teachers union, Del Norte Teachers Association. Do you have an opinion on that, or?
You know, when we talked earlier, I was, I've not been part of the contract talks. I am now leaning more and more toward the side of the teachers. And this is based in large part by something that Dalton Bradbury said. And Dalton graduated high school here at Del Norte 7-8 years ago. Very, very bright young man.
I'm surprised to learn he's a grown-up now,
yeah. Went to school in San Diego, went to law school, and graduated with honors in San Francisco. Passed the bar and is now working. And he spoke to us at the Crescent City Rotary Club, and he talked about the challenges of being a student in Del Norte County. And this is an incredibly bright kid with an amazing future ahead of him. But one of the things he said was that he took every advanced placement class that was available. He took them all. He started competing for scholarships and for places in schools, and he was going up against kids that had twice as many advanced placement classes as he did. He took everyone he could, but he's competing against folks who had a much larger menu to choose from.
Right.
And they took advantage of it as well. It's very competitive. So what he said is the problem is too many of our teachers are leaving, moving on. And so we don't have a chance to build those advanced placement classes. And so they're never offered. And so our children don't get to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And boy, that really struck a tenor with me. That we have to do a better job on the education side of offering not only our best and our brightest, a clear path, but also we also have to find ways to let young people know that maybe college isn't the best answer for you. Take a look at trade schools. Right now in Seattle, steelworkers are making a starting salary of $28 an hour. Starting salary with 6 months of training. And
the journalist in the room looks at me like, oh, jeez.
I know. But
I think I'm going to move to Seattle and become a steel worker.
And that's the situation with most of the trades, is that there are jobs out there. I talked to an owner of a business. I don't want to mention his name, but it's a trade. And he said, I can't come do your work for you. I know you're calling. You want this done. I can't do it because I'm 6 months out.
Right.
And every time I hire somebody, it turns out they don't know what they're doing. He said, if you want to go to school for 6 months, I'll hire you in a heartbeat. And so, yeah, I'm leaning, with the caveat that I'm not in the negotiations, and understanding that the school board has a duty to get the best bang for the buck for the taxpayers. Nevertheless, we have to find a way to keep teachers in Del Norte County for an extended period of time. And, we have to face the fact we have to pay them.
Yeah, good point. I want just a little bit of clarification. Before, when you were talking to the woman who'd been homeless and you'd been going door to door, I laughed. I went, and I could hear that in here. And I wanted to clarify for anybody out there, it wasn't the story you were telling. What I saw was, if you're like an emotionally receptive, empathetic person, going door to door has got to be like a crapshoot, man. Just the stories you would encounter.
I have to tell you, everybody, with the exception of one person, has been at least reasonably nice. And most people, I've been invited in, I've shared coffee with folks. And there's a lot of people out there that not only really care about our community and the direction, but they really care about the fact that candidates are making the effort to get out and talk to people. And yeah, I'm trying to sell myself. Vote for me. And I know Darren's done the same, is doing the same thing. We've had some chats about, the going out and meeting people, and it's outside of our comfort zone, but it is also one of the best things I've ever done, because I am meeting people and hearing things and realizing that what we do in a community has real world implications. And it's sobering when you think about, I'm running for an office that is going to directly impact you.
Right.
And
it's not just a job.
Yeah, and I can't just knee-jerk my way. Yeah, well, I think this way, so this is the way it's going to be, and that's going to negatively impact you. It is sobering. It's eye-opening, but I'm excited about the future.
Wonderful. I think not just every candidate, but perhaps every incumbent should be made to go door to door in their district every so often. Huh?
Yeah, and for us in District 1 and District 2, which is pretty much Crescent City, and somewhat District 5, the one that Bob Berkowitz and Kevin Hendricks, they also have Klamath, but a large part is of outside the area of Crescent City. You have to do that. It's a little harder for the other two districts.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you kind of got to be like a postman out there.
Like Chris Howard going door to door on Low Divide or something like that.
It's a challenge.
Yeah,
but it's win, lose, or draw. It's been a great experience. We got a month to go, and I'm very proud that I'm doing it, and I hope I can earn folks' votes. But regardless, it's been a great experience.
Great.
Wonderful. John Pritchett, thank you so very much for coming back in for this do-over. When we're done, I'm going to go shut off the recording right now, so I know that I won't. And we'll post this. We'll post this along with Lori's interview from earlier to the internet. Probably tomorrow.
Thank you very much for having me. Great questions, and
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, we've gone seriously over time. It is 22 minutes into the 1 o'clock hour. I'm going to start some music and see if Jason's still around, because we may hop back on and wrap up the week as we do at the end of community service every Friday. You're tuned to, well, I'll let Jason tell you.
You're listening to KFUG-LP, Crescent City, California.